In this video, we're stepping back to one of the harshest winters Britain ever endured. The winter of 1982 brought relentless cold, deep snow, and daily struggles that tested the nation. These are the moments, memories, and hardships that made it a winter Britain would never forget. When the figures began appearing on television and in the morning papers, they were hard to believe. Night after night, temperatures across Britain plunged well below freezing, with some rural areas recording lows not seen for a generation. In Scotland, northern England, and parts of Wales, the cold felt biting, the kind that cut straight through coats and gloves. What made it worse was how persistent it was. This wasn't a single brutal night followed by recovery. It was freezing cold that settled in and stayed. Car engines refused to start in the mornings, breath fogged the air inside buses, and even indoors. Houses never seemed to fully warm up. Thermometers hung outside kitchen windows became daily talking points, checked with disbelief before breakfast. Older Britons quietly compared it to winters they remembered from childhood, while younger generations experienced cold on a scale they had never known. The numbers themselves became part of the memory proof that this wasn't just uncomfortable weather, but a winter that rewrote what people thought Britain's cold could be. 2. Temperatures that shocked the nation when the figures began appearing on television and in the morning papers. They were hard to believe. Night after night, temperatures across Britain plunged well below freezing, with some rural areas recording lows not seen for a generation. In Scotland, northern England, and parts of Wales, the cold felt biting, the kind that cut straight through coats and gloves. What made it worse was how persistent it was. This wasn't a single brutal night followed by recovery. It was freezing cold that settled in and stayed. Car engines refused to start in the mornings, breath fogged the air inside buses, and even indoors. Houses never seemed to fully warm up. Thermometers hung outside kitchen windows became daily talking points, checked with disbelief before breakfast. Older Britons quietly compared it to winters they remembered from childhood, while younger generations experienced cold on a scale they had never known. The numbers themselves became part of the memory proof that this wasn't just uncomfortable weather, but a winter that rewrote what people thought Britain's cold could be. In many parts of Britain, it wasn't the snowfall itself that caused the most trouble, it was the wind. Strong gusts swept across open fields and country lanes, lifting snow and piling it into deep, compacted drifts that grew day by day. In rural areas, these drifts climbed higher than garden fences, hedgerows, and even parked cars. Villages woke to find roads completely erased, replaced by white walls that no shovel could icily break through. Farmers dug narrow tunnels just to reach barns, while residents relied on makeshift paths carved between houses. Snowplows struggled, often clearing the same road again and again as fresh drifts reformed within hours. For those living through it, the sight was unforgettable. Familiar landscapes vanished under towering banks of snow, turning ordinary streets into something out of a winter postcard, beautiful to look at, but brutally isolating. It was another reminder that during the winter of 1982, nature, not routine, was in control. It arrived with little warning and changed everything overnight. In January 1982, a powerful blizzard tore across large parts of Britain, driven by freezing winds and relentless snowfall. What began as an ordinary winter, its day quickly became a national emergency as visibility dropped to near zero and temperatures plunged even further. Motorists were caught completely off guard. Cars and lorries became stranded on major roads, some abandoned where they stopped, others stuck for hours with drivers wrapped in coats and blankets. In rural areas, entire villages were cut off as drifting snow sealed roads shut, leaving residents dependent on whatever supplies they already had indoors. By morning, the scale of the damage was clear. Roads were impassable, public transport ground to a halt, and emergency services struggled to reach those in need. The January blizzard was in. Just another snowy day. It was the moment many people realized this winter had crossed from uncomfortable into truly dangerous territory. When Britain's roads became ice rinks, as the cold deepened, Britain's roads turned treacherous. Daytime temperatures often failed to rise above freezing, meaning that whatever snow melted slightly during the afternoon refroze overnight into hard, polished ice. By morning, streets, pavements, and motorways glistened deceptively under a thin, deadly sheen. Local councils quickly ran into trouble. Grit and salt supplies were stretched thin, and many side roads went untreated for days or even weeks. Drivers crept along at walking pace, while buses skidded at junctions and delivery lorries jackknifed on hills. Even experienced motorists found themselves helpless as cars slid with no warning. For pedestrians, every trip outside became a calculated risk. People shuffled instead of walking, gripping fences and walls for balance. Broken bones filled hospital waiting rooms, and the simple act of crossing the road felt like a test of nerve. During the winter of 1982, Britain's roads were no longer routes of travel. They were ice rinks, where one wrong step could change everything. Britain's rail network was never designed for a winter that refused to thaw. As the deep freeze tightened its grip, points and switches froze solid, signals failed, and miles of track became unreliable. Trains that did run often crawled along at reduced speeds, while many others were simply canceled without warning. Commuters gathered on icy platforms wrapped in scarves and heavy coats, staring down tracks that remained empty for hours. Station loudspeakers crackled with apologies and vague announcements, while unheated waiting rooms offered little shelter from the cold. For some, the journey home became an overnight ordeal, sleeping on benches or accepting lifts from strangers. Freight trains also ground to a halt, worsening shortages of food, fuel, and supplies across the country. The frozen railways became a symbol of the winter's reach proof that even the systems meant to keep. Britain moving could be brought to a standstill by the relentless cold of 1982. For children, the closures began as an unexpected thrill. As snow piled up and roads became impassable, head teachers across Britain made the call to shut schools first for a day or two, then for much longer. What was meant to be a brief disruption quickly turned into weeks at home, as heating systems failed and classrooms remained icy cold. Parents faced a very different reality. With workplaces still expecting attendance, many struggled to arrange childcare or were forced to take unpaid time off. In rural areas, school buses couldn't navigate snowdrifts, leaving no safe way for pupils to travel even when buildings reopened. Exercise books stayed untouched, while children spent their days sledging, building snowmen, and watching daytime television under blankets. For a generation, the winter of 1982 became inseparable from the memory of prolonged school closures, turning education upside down and making the cold feel both magical and disruptive at the same time. As the freeze dragged on, Britain's power supply came under growing strain. Increased demand for heating, combined with frozen equipment and damaged lines, led to rolling power cuts across many regions. For countless households, the lights went out without warning, often just as darkness fell. Living rooms were suddenly lit by candles and the glow of coal fires, while battery radios became lifelines for news and weather updates. Electric heaters fell silent, televisions went black, and families gathered closer together for warmth. In some areas, outages lasted hours. In others, they became a regular nightly occurrence. The darkness added a new layer of unease to an already harsh winter. Streets were quieter, colder, and eerily still, while homes felt both intimate and vulnerable. These power cuts weren't just inconveniences. They were stark reminders that during the winter of 1982, modern comforts could disappear in an instant. The relentless cold didn't just chill the air, it attacked homes from the inside. Water pipes froze solid in many houses, and the pressure caused some to burst, flooding kitchens, bathrooms, and basements. For families waking up to icy taps, even the simplest task of getting a drink or washing up became a challenge. Boilers struggled to cope with the extreme demand, leaving central heating systems failing at the worst possible moments. Some households resorted to makeshift heating, boiling kettles on gas hobs or huddling around open fireplaces. Plumbers were overwhelmed, and repairs often couldn't happen until roads were cleared of snow, leaving families in cold, damp conditions for days. This winter taught Britons a harsh lesson. No matter how well prepared you thought you were, the freeze could strike at home itself, turning everyday plumbing into a major emergency. With central heating struggling under the relentless cold, many households turned back to older, more traditional methods of staying warm. Coal fires crackled to life once more, filling homes with heat, smoke, and the unmistakable scent of burning coal. Even families who hadn't used a fireplace in years found themselves scraping together coal or wood to stay comfortable. Electric heaters, often relegated to occasional use, became lifelines in bedrooms and living rooms, their warmth a small comfort against freezing temperatures. Makeshift arrangements appeared everywhere, chairs pulled close to radiators, blankets draped over furniture to trap heat, and kettles constantly boiling for extra warmth. For a generation growing up in the modern age, the winter of 1982 was a reminder of survival skills from decades past, as Britain rediscovered the simple, reliable methods of keeping the cold at bay. For many households, even the simplest deliveries became a sign of the winter's severity. Milk bottles left on doorsteps overnight froze solid, sometimes splitting the glass as the liquid expanded. Families discovered mornings that should have begun with warm porridge instead offered icy, unpourable milk. It wasn't just milk cream. Juice, and even butter stored near windows or in unheated pantries often turned into solid blocks. Housewives and parents adapted quickly, bringing bottles inside earlier, using snow to chill perishables or improvising ways to thaw them without losing a meal. These frozen bottles became more than just a nuisance, they were a daily reminder of how deeply the cold had invaded ordinary life, turning something as mundane as breakfast into a small winter challenge to navigate icy streets. Britain's corner shops began running low on everyday essentials. Bread, eggs, and milk disappeared quickly, leaving only the barest supplies for those lucky enough to reach a shop. Shopkeepers improvised where they could, rationing goods and alerting neighbors when fresh deliveries finally arrived. In some villages, shelves remained empty for days, forcing families to make do with what they had: canned food, dried staples, or creatively stretched leftovers. For many, this scarcity transformed routine errands into stressful ventures. A trip to the shop became an unpredictable mission, proving that the winter of 1982 affected not just warmth, but the very ability to feed a household. Imagine this: January 1982. Britain is frozen solid. It's not just cold. It's one of the most brutal winters in living memory. For most people, it meant staying indoors, cranking up the heat and waiting for it to pass. But for the farmers of Britain, that wasn't an option. Their story from that winter is one of incredible resilience and community spirit. The snow started falling and just didn't stop. We're talking about massive snowdrifts, some reaching up to 20 feet high, completely burying roads and isolating entire villages. For farmers, this was a nightmare. Livestock were their lifeblood, and thousands of sheep and cattle were stranded out in the fields, cut off from food, water, and shelter. The biting wind and sub-zero temperatures were relentless. This is where the real drama began. Farmers couldn't just sit and wait, they had to act. They worked around the clock in these impossible conditions. Imagine digging through solid walls of snow for hours just to reach a flock of sheep, only to find them buried. Frozen, but miraculously still alive. They used everything they had: shovels, tractors, even their bare hands, to clear paths and get feed to their starving animals. But they weren't alone. This crisis sparked an incredible response. The military was called in. Helicopters from the Royal Air Force became a lifeline, airdropping massive bales of hay into remote fields where vehicles couldn't reach. It was a race against time, a dramatic aerial rescue mission for livestock. Pilots skillfully navigated treacherous weather to deliver supplies, saving countless animals from starvation. And it wasn't just the military. Neighbors helped neighbors. People from nearby towns and villages who could get through offered their help, bringing hot food and drinks to the exhausted farmers or helping to dig out trapped animals. It was a powerful display of a community coming together when it mattered most. The winter of 1982 pushed British farmers to their absolute limits, but it also showcased their extraordinary determination and the strength of their communities. It's a testament to the human spirit in the face of nature's fury. These unsung heroes battled the elements and saved their livelihoods, one shovelful of snow at a time. It's a powerful story that deserves to be remembered. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as inspiring as I did, hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible tales from history. See you next time. Have you checked your energy bill lately? If you're in Britain, you might want to sit down first. As temperatures have plummeted across the country, families are finding themselves in a tough spot. It's forced to burn through fuel like never before just to stay warm. We're talking about coal, gas, and electricity bills that are soaring to unbelievable heights, leaving households scrambling to figure out how to pay for this basic necessity. Even people who are usually super careful with their heating are finding they have to keep the fires going and the heaters running almost constantly. It's not about being cozy anymore. It's about not freezing inside your own home. This brutal cold has made it clear that keeping warm isn't just a luxury, it's a matter of survival. The cost of that survival is weighing heavily on everyone. People are getting creative, but it's out of desperation. We're hearing stories of families heating only one room in the house, piling every blanket they own onto their beds, and rediscovering the simple warmth of a hot water bottle. It feels like we've gone back in time, doesn't it? In some areas, fuel shortages are making a bad situation even worse. Imagine having to choose which part of your home gets heat, or who gets to be warm. It's a choice no one should have to make. This isn't just a news headline. It's the daily reality for millions. People are making tough decisions, cutting back on other essentials, just to keep the heating on for a few more hours. The financial strain is immense, and the stress is palpable. It's a stark reminder of how vulnerable we are to the weather and to fluctuating energy prices. This winter has really highlighted a critical issue: the affordability of warmth. As we all try to get through Britain's coldest days, the question on everyone's mind is, how much more can people take? Let us know in the comments how you're coping with rising energy costs. And if you found this video insightful, please give it a like and subscribe for more stories that matter. Stay warm and stay safe. Imagine this: January 1982. Britain is buried under snow. The big snow brings the entire country to a standstill. For the UK's emergency services, it wasn't just a snow date, it was a battle against nature itself. Ambulances struggled to navigate impassable roads, fire crews faced frozen hydrants, and police were stretched to their absolute limit. Journeys that normally took minutes now took hours, if they were possible at all. But in the face of this icy chaos, something incredible happened. Communities rallied. Farmers used their tractors as makeshift ambulances, neighbors dug out paths for paramedics, and volunteers brought hot meals to stranded drivers and emergency workers. It was a time of immense hardship, but it also showed the unbreakable spirit of a nation coming together. This wasn't just a story about a storm. It was a story of courage, resilience, and true community heroes. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. While the cold touched everyone, it was Britain's older population who suffered most. Many elderly people lived alone in poorly insulated homes and struggled to keep warm as central heating faltered or fuel became scarce. For some, even stepping outside to fetch necessities was too dangerous. Medical services were stretched thin, and winter illnesses like flu, chest infections, and hypothermia became far more serious. Relatives and neighbors often stepped in to help, delivering food, checking on heating, and keeping spirits up. Still, thousands of older Britons faced isolation, illness, and the harsh reality of a winter that tested human endurance like no other. The winter of 1982 became a stark reminder that the effects of extreme cold go far beyond inconvenience, could threaten the very lives of the most vulnerable in society. For sports fans, the winter of 1982 brought disappointment and disruption. Frozen pitches and snowbound stadiums forced football clubs across the country to cancel matches for weeks on end. From local leagues to professional fixtures, the game Britain loved was put on ice literally. Supporters trudged to stadiums only to find gates closed, while teams struggled to maintain training schedules amid snowdrifts and icy grounds. Even when games went ahead, frozen turf made play unpredictable and dangerous, with players slipping and sliding under harsh conditions. For a nation where football was almost a religion, these cancellations were a clear sign. The winter wasn't. Just cold it was unrelenting enough to halt the heart of British culture itself. One of the most haunting memories of the winter of 1982 was in the snow, or the cold but the eerie silence it brought. Thick blankets of snow muffled the usual sounds of daily life, absorbing footsteps, engines, and the chatter of neighbors. Streets became ghostly white corridors, where even the crunch of a boot on ice seemed unusually loud. For those awake in the long, cold nights, the stillness could be almost unsettling. Windows frosted over, chimneys puffed slowly, and the occasional howl of the wind became the soundtrack to a nation trapped indoors. Families huddled together, listening to the quiet, feeling the isolation, and realizing that winter had transformed familiar surroundings into something almost otherworldly. It was a silence that both comforted and unnerved. A soundscape that only an extreme winter could create, and one that many Britons would remember for the rest of their lives. Remember the winter of '82? For a lot of us, it wasn't just cold. It was an epic adventure waiting to happen. Back then, we didn't have fancy store-bought sleds. We had creativity and a whole lot of cardboard. I can still feel the crisp, biting air and see the world blanketed in a thick layer of pristine white snow. The moment school was out, we'd dash home, grab whatever we could find: a big flattened cardboard box, a sturdy plastic sheet, even an old tire tube. These were our chariots, and the nearest snowy hill was our kingdom. We'd trudge up the slope, our boots sinking deep into the powder, our breath turning into clouds of steam. Then, the pure joy of launching ourselves downhill, laughing and shouting as we bumped and spun our way to the bottom. We'd race each other, build snowmen, and have snowball fights until our fingers were numb and our cheeks were rosy red. It didn't matter that we were freezing. We were making memories. Those simple, joyful moments in the snow, with nothing but a piece of cardboard and our friends, were some of the best days of our lives. What are your favorite winter memories from childhood? Share them in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more trips down memory lane. At the start of winter, the weather reports were just background noise, something you'd catch on the BBC while making a cup of tea. The presenters, with their calm, familiar voices, spoke of chilly evenings and the possibility of a light frost. It was all very routine, very British. But then, something shifted. The casual mentions of cold weather began to take on a sharper edge. The forecasts weren't just about whether you needed a scarf anymore. They were about something more serious settling in. The tone on television began to change dramatically. Regional announcers, who usually had a friendly and relaxed demeanor, now looked grave. Their warnings were no longer about a few inches of snow, but about blizzards that would cut off entire villages for days, maybe even weeks. They spoke of sub-zero temperatures that weren't just cold, but dangerous, threatening the very infrastructure we relied on. The maps on screen weren't just showing weather patterns. They were highlighting lifelines and marking danger zones. Each forecast felt like a bulletin from a front line. We started watching differently. The television wasn't just for entertainment. It became a vital tool for survival. Families would gather around not just for a show, but to see which roads were impassable, which schools were closing, and whether the power grid was holding up. The news segments shifted from general information to practical, urgent advice. Presenters weren't just telling us it was cold. They were teaching us how to lag pipes to stop them from bursting, how to spot the early signs of frostbite, and how to stay warm if the heating failed. It was a strange, unifying experience. Everyone was watching the same channels, listening to the same warnings. Huddled in our living rooms, clutching mugs of hot tea, we watched as the reality of the situation unfolded on our screens. This wasn't just another bad winter. It was a national emergency playing out in real time. The television, that everyday box in the corner of the room, had become our most crucial link to the outside world. A lifeline offering guidance and a small sliver of hope in the face of an overwhelming freeze. Each broadcast was a reminder that we were all in this together, waiting for the thaw. Thanks for watching. If you found this look back at a historic moment interesting, please like this video and subscribe for more stories like this. See you next time. Have you ever felt like you're just not enough? Like no matter how hard you try, you fall short of the expectations you set for yourself, or the ones you think others have for you? This feeling, this constant pressure to be perfect, can be absolutely exhausting. It's like you're running a race with no finish line, always chasing an idealized version of yourself that seems just out of reach. The truth is, this pursuit of perfection is often the very thing holding us back. It creates a fear of failure that can paralyze us, stopping us from trying new things or taking risks that could lead to incredible growth. We get so caught up in avoiding mistakes that we forget to live, to learn, and to simply be. But what if we decided to change the narrative? What if instead of striving for perfection, we aimed for progress? Imagine celebrating the small wins, learning from the stumbles, and treating ourselves with the same kindness and compassion we so easily offer to our friends. When you make a mistake, instead of beating yourself up, try asking, "What can I learn from this?" This simple shift in perspective can be life-changing. It reframes failure not as an endpoint, but as a stepping stone. And it's important to remember that you are not alone in this feeling. Everyone, and I mean everyone, has moments of self-doubt. The curated lives we see online are just highlight reels, not the full, messy, beautiful reality of being human. True strength isn't about being flawless. It's about being resilient. It's about getting back up, dusting yourself off, and trying again. So let's make a deal. Let's start embracing our imperfections. Let's be proud of our efforts, not just the outcomes. Your worth isn't measured by your successes or your failures. Your worth is inherent. You are enough right now, exactly as you are. If you're struggling with these feelings, please know that reaching out is a sign of strength. Talking to a friend, a family member, or a mental health professional can make all the difference. There are resources available, and you don't have to go through this alone. Thank you so much for watching. If this resonated with you, give this video a like. And consider subscribing for more content on personal growth and self-compassion. See you next time. Picture this. It's December 1982. Across Britain, a scene straight out of a snow globe is unfolding. But this wasn't just a picturesque winter wonderland. It was one of the most extreme cold snaps the country had seen in decades. They called it the Big Snow of '82, and for those who lived through it, the memories are frozen in time. It all started in early December. A blast of Arctic air swept across the nation, and it didn't just bring a light dusting. It brought blizzards, deep drifts, and temperatures that plummeted far below freezing. In some parts of Scotland, the mercury dropped to a staggering minus 27.2 degrees Celsius, setting an all-time record for the UK that still stands today. That's colder than most freezers. Imagine waking up to find your world transformed overnight. Snowdrifts buried cars, blocked roads, and cut off entire villages for days. For many, just getting a pint of milk became an epic adventure. Schools closed, businesses shut down, and life as we knew it ground to a halt. In the southwest, thousands of people were stranded in their cars on the M5 motorway. Some for over 36 hours as the snow just kept falling. But it wasn't all chaos. Amidst the disruption, a remarkable community spirit shone through. Neighbors helped neighbors, clearing paths, sharing food, and checking in on the elderly. Kids, of course, were having the time of their lives, building epic snowmen and sledging down hills that were usually just grassy slopes. It was a time of shared hardship and simple joys, a reminder of how resilient people can be when faced with the full force of nature. The Great Freeze of '82 left a lasting mark on the British landscape and its people. Rivers like the Thames partially froze over, creating eerie, beautiful scenes. The thaw, when it finally came, brought its own challenges with widespread flooding. It was a winter that tested the nation's grit, but also brought out its best. Do you remember the winter of '82? Share your stories in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more dives into history. Amid the hardships of the winter of 1982, one thing shone through: the remarkable sense of community. Neighbors checked on each other, clearing snow from driveways, delivering groceries, or simply offering company to those isolated by the deep freeze. In towns and villages, people shared warmth, food, and news, turning living rooms into gathering points for stories, tea, and comfort. Strangers became helpers, and local networks of support grew stronger as everyone faced the same relentless cold, even in the harshest conditions. The winter revealed that human connection could be as vital as fuel or food, reminding Britons that solidarity and kindness were essential tools for surviving the coldest days. By the time the snow finally began to melt and temperatures slowly rose, the winter of 1982 had etched itself into the memory of the nation. Families, workers, and children had all endured weeks of relentless cold, isolation, and daily challenges that tested patience, resilience, and community spirit. It wasn't just the hardships that people remembered: the frozen landscapes, the school closures, and the blizzards, but also the ways in which Britain came together to survive. From neighbors helping each other through drifts to children finding joy on snowy hills, every moment became part of a shared story. Decades later, the winter of 1982 remains a benchmark for cold. Struggle and endurance, a season that defined a generation and reminded the nation of its strength in the face of nature. As harshest trials